Hello, welcome to Why Not Both. My name is Pam Schaefer, and I'm a musician and therapist in Los Angeles. Why Not Both is all about how our multiple passions inform our identity, and this season we are brought to you by Under the Radar magazine and produced by Laura Studeris. If you like what you hear, please make sure to like us and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform and come spend time with us on social media. We are at WNB the podcast, and that is both on Instagram and on Twitter. For this episode, we got to interview Los Angeles artist Tolliver. We chatted all about his music as well as the 1,000,001 things that he's also up to. I hope that you take a listen to his work and that you enjoy our interview. Welcome to Why Not Both.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Yes. This is the podcast where I ask you about stuff and things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know a few stuffs and things.
Just a few. You do lots of stuffs and things, and you said you were going to do lots of stuffs and things today. So I'm like, hey, what are you going to do today?
Oh my God. Okay. So I'm working my day job and they think I'm just working. I'm like, you're supposed to edit like a 12-minute cut for this adult video site.
Wow.
So I'm trying to get that done and also delegate stuff to somebody else to work on the other porn sites. That's like the bottom of my thing. That's just me like pretending like, hey, yeah, I'm still working on it. But really I'm doing 8 other things.
You're like low key other things. So I'm like,
yeah.
So you edit for adult sites?
Yeah, I do. And then I'm working on a story about like Black businesses downtown. So I interviewed the 3 people I wanted to talk to, and then now I have to go back and like do photos. So after this, I'm gonna go make my rounds and do some pictures with them.
Oh, sweet.
And I'm sending in a performance video for this. Beat Cinema is doing something with like, I guess Bandcamp is donating to the NAACP or something like that. And so we're doing a fundraiser on Twitch, I think in conjunction with that. And so I have to go to my garage and film a little mini set, which will be fun.
Awesome. And there's more.
Yeah, I feel like such an LA, person, but whatever. And then what else do I have to do? My friend Claire and I actually had a podcast we started like a million moons ago about like basketball, but I love basketball, I do, but like I'm just the color commentator because I'm barely paying attention usually to the season. I'm just like haha, I just say the funny things.
You just drop it and you're like the ball. Did you see it? There it went.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm doing that at 5, and I think that might be it. I didn't write all the stuff down, but it just felt like there was like a trillion little things. Oh, and then I'm shooting a music video this Saturday, so I have to that's the number one thing. I have to plan everything related to that today.
Oh, casual. That's fine.
Because it just happened in the last second. I filmed a video and the label I'm on didn't like it, so they were like, redo the whole thing. And I was like, and the song comes out next Friday.
Oh my God. Are you
so I'm like, woo! It's like,
what? maybe a tiny bit more heads up of redo the whole thing, like just a little.
I think they were nervous because I was like, oh, I like this video, but no one, the label didn't like it. My manager didn't like it, but I was like, it's cool, it's fine. Like I like it, but they were like, I feel like it's got to be more powerful with the moment that's going on right now, and we want something more like grittier and cooler or whatever. So I was like, all right, cool.
Okay. I mean, I guess like when in doubt, then you'll have 2 videos and then you can do what you want with them.
Exactly. You can just chop up the first video and then make little content or whatever.
Right. I mean, do you feel gritty about what's happening? I'm like, I'm like, what are you feeling? Like, isn't it about what you feel about what's going on that you want to put in your video?
Yeah. I mean, I actually did want to change the vibe of the video. They were like, do a lyric video and do a video. So we shot the regular video, and I was supposed to be editing a lyric video today.
Oh.
And I was going to make the lyric video way more political,
right.
Creative Commons footage and shit like that. But what we're going to do instead is make a whole video about reparations. So it's going to be really, really simple concepts, just because it's probably all we can execute. Just everybody in single colors, long shots pushing in. And
Mm-hmm.
then,
Mm-hmm.
there's a big balloon sign in gold that just says reparations. And then there'll be like little things, related to that, I guess. But that's all we have. We have 2 days.
What popped in my head was like, oh my God, you're going to be the influencer of reparations.
Perfect. Finally. I'm happy to do that.
I was gonna say, like I had just imagined those balloons that you see like on all of those shots.
Yes.
People would like 21st birthday, live, laugh, love.
You know the balloons.
Oh yes, that's brilliant. Because I was like, when you were saying, oh, this is so LA. If I had to do a last minute video shoot, the first thing I would probably do is just wander through downtown in the Fabric District and just be like, all right, shiny stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm like, because
go on.
The restaurateurs are right in that area. So it's like, I'm just like, bing, bing, bing. But the trick is to trick my job into thinking that I'm still sitting at my desk. That's the toughest part.
Maybe if you make updates and then send them out strategically via email at different times, they'll think that you did them at those times.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to have to do.
Schedule those emails to be like, oh my God, I just finished this cut.
Finally finished. Whew.
Yeah, that was tough. 4 hours ago.
It's so silly. They got me this week. I went to Joshua Tree to like try to shoot at my friend's house. Like, this is a little short with me and like 3 friends. Mm-hmm. And nothing worked. The camera like wouldn't connect to the lens or something like that.
Oh God.
And freaking like my friend left the batteries in LA and it was a whole thing. So we didn't shoot anything. And we came back and I was late as hell coming back, and they finally caught me after years. After years, I've been getting away with just not doing anything, or like, working a little bit or working very late at night. Right. They were like, we called a meeting. Where are you? Where's the steak? Blah, blah. So we had to have a whole meeting.
Oh my God.
That's it.
Oh, well, and I was thinking about even working in the adult industry right now, there's been such a shift of people making their own content. And so I'd imagine that some of the sites are scrambling for that, especially with everything that's come out about, I don't think you work for some of the sites, but things came out about sites where people were being really shady and abusive towards people. And so now a lot of the talent are like, hey, we're just going to make our own stuff. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that maybe that's why they're extra like up in arms right now. Yeah, and like a lot of the stuff that's coming through is really, I think it actually looks really cool. Like it looks to me, I'm like, man, do we even need to have like big shoots? Because the stuff looks comparable in some kind of ways. Like, yeah, they've got 3 cameras set up, just the 2 of them. I'm guessing they're like couples or whatever. There's a site called Stay Home Bro. We just started. So it's just like, these gay couples like in different scenarios, just shooting for our different sites. Yeah. Today I'm a security guard. Tomorrow I'm a priest, Well, yeah, and I think about like, especially you're even talking about right now, like, okay, I have to go and shoot my own music video. Like everyone's kind of creating their own content. So it seems like really we just need places to aggregate it as opposed to places to make it. Exactly. Yeah. And even sorry if I'm talking too much. No, that's literally why you're here. But I always do that to my therapist. He's like, that's why you're here. But I was doing like a lot of Zoom recording sessions for like sync and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple of them be like, yeah, my wife is just like, maybe we can move out of LA because you clearly don't need to like do sessions in person. So why are we even still here? And I was like, damn. Wow. It's gonna like rearrange like so many things. Yeah. And I guess wow, that was a weird question. My brain was like, why do we need cities? Right. Because I wonder about, what can be left up to chance, like how you do run into people that you do end up working with, because yes, you can like arrange them over Zoom, and yes, you can like get to know people on the internet. But I know, like, for instance, like I invited you to the podcast. I'd been meaning to for months because I'd like seen you out and about in LA and was like, wow, I should really ask him about this.
Yeah.
And it came about organically because I saw you out and about.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, how many people would I simply have never met? If everything was zooming. It's
Yeah.
been, it's been interesting because I've had to learn how to be better on the internet. I've always been like live singer, live performance. That's really what I love about music,
Mm.
is singing in person. And I've always felt like my Achilles heel was like the internet. And so
Oh.
this has been kind of interesting because I resisted so hard. And then it was like, okay, fine, I'll learn how to be creative. And that's where like that video came from, like the dance video I made to that song. That's what the whole reason I did that song. It's because I was just like, I gotta do something. Like,
Please tell everybody about that song. I'm like, please explain to everybody what the majesty of that song is.
so there was a police commissioners meeting a couple weeks ago, and they were taking public comment, and the lines were like super packed, obviously, because everyone wanted to scream at these people, and they did.
Yes.
And there's this one caller that somebody sent it to me on Twitter, and he's like talking to Police Chief Michael Moore, and he's like, you're unfit to serve, like you don't deserve the title of police chief. Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you. And that's just like those series of words, because of the words, I yield my time. It's like so polite.
Yes.
It makes it so funny to me. To everything. And so I heard it, and I was just like, I'd finally finished whatever for the day, and I was just sitting up at like midnight or something like that. And the thing is, I've never like ever really produced a song of mine. I've produced a lot of music for like little trailers or whatever, but I've never produced music that was like mine, really. It's crazy. I was just working with people. Yeah, I play guitar and piano, and like I went to school for music and like know how to write it and whatnot. But I just never have done like Ableton or something like that. So I was like, once again, like, let me just learn how to do stuff. Anyway, so it's making this story long, but the point is I was like, let me chop this vocal up, have fun with it, blah, blah. So I'm just dancing in my room. And like, I probably finished at like 4 a.m.
Excellent.
Like, and I was like, this is hot. I'm digging it. And so I was like, I knew I wanted to share it. So I wanted to make a little video. So I made some album art where I put, I yield my time is on Chief Moore's head, and then fuck you is right above his, lips or whatever.
Yes.
And then it was cool. It got shared on some site. I forget the name of it, but it looked like, Mel was the name of the site. Mel. And it was like, honestly, one of the like coolest things I've done. And it's definitely the thing I've done that's gotten the biggest response ever.
Wow.
Which is crazy. Like, I think I literally got verified on Instagram because of that or something like that. I don't know. It just happened.
That's hilarious. See, you are the reparations influencer.
Exactly. That's right. That's my next thing.
Has he heard it? Has the guy who's called in, has he heard your remix?
Yes, he has. Because somebody tagged him in like I think the dance video I made, and then I like tagged him in a story, and then followed him, and now we follow each other, but we don't really like interact. He just like liked the post,
right?
And I don't even think he reposted it, but he followed me back, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. You don't want to like he seems like he wanted to just get that out.
Exactly.
And then that's it. He's not trying to be like all up in.
I'm trying to imagine being him right now because like I did read that like he had planned the remarks so that he knew how long they were, which I was like, that's really cool. But I don't think anybody would do something like that just to be like, and now I'm the next internet sensation.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. So I don't think he's really trying to be,
Yeah, it's like a strange unintended side consequence. I'm like, I don't know what to call that when it's like you do something really awesome because it's really awesome, but then people are like, hold up, now you're a meme.
Yeah.
A weird product of our times. That's interesting though that you're like, I went to school for music, I write music all the time, but this was the first thing you'd produced for yourself. And then it's the thing that's now gotten the most attention. I'm like,
right?
That's hilarious and just fantastic.
I know. You know what's weird? It's like people are like, oh, or like friends of mine are like, yeah, you should, do more stuff, keep producing stuff. And even with this going well, or I'm still like, no. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I think it's just because right now I'm like doing a bunch of stuff, and I really like collaborating with other people on music. Um, I
Yeah.
I just it just make I guess it just makes me feel better in some sort of way to just work with other people.
I was curious, yeah, like what makes it more fun to produce someone else's music?
Well, I don't, I produce stuff for other people, but it's pretty rare. But I just mean like when someone else is producing with me, like I'm sitting in the room
Oh,
and they're making a
yeah.
beat, and it feels like more of a conversation. So they're like, "Oh, you did this really cool part, so I'll change the beat in this way," and like,
Mhm.
and because
Mhm.
I know that they know what they're doing, I'm like, I feel like I'm in good hands. But yeah, like, oh, how do I delete this? And I'm like, frustrated.
I think that there's like this weird learning curve of production that like about 10 years into doing it, that's when you start having like some sort of faculty with it that it does the thing that you intend to do when you press the
Yes,
buttons.
exactly.
And the decade leading up to that is just I mean, I don't know about you, but I definitely have had conversations with my computer where I'm just like, that's not what I wanted you to do.
Yeah,
It's just maybe adjacent
I
to
know.
what I had intended, but that's not the noise that I was going for. Like, what happened there? Let's should we try this
I
again?
know. It's like I work with Premiere, video editing every day,
Uh-huh.
and I just feel like every day there's like something like that. You're like,
Yes.
why is this not encoding the way I thought it? Like, it's like I've been working with this software for 5 years every single day. I like know it pretty well, and it's like,
Yep.
nope,
Nope.
sorry.
Nope. That's so funny. And yeah, I guess it's kind of the difference between a conversation with someone else and almost like a conversation with yourself. That sounds really weird.
No, I know
But
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
but yeah, and it's like I I personally like both kinds of experiences. Like I actually like to produce my own stuff because I like to just sit in my music cave like a weirdo in a hoodie being like, I pressed all the buttons, go.
Yes.
But that's very different than being in a studio with someone else and being like, you press some of the buttons.
Yeah, I know. It's something about when I'm trying to write the song, I just like don't want to have to consider the whole picture, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but I had fun. I edited the video for my last song, Petty, my last video,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it was the guy who shot it. I was working with him on stuff, but he works in Final Cut, and I was like, I'm gonna go to your house to edit it, and I didn't know he didn't have Premiere, and so I would just come to his house and sit in the dungeon and just like figure it out, and
Uh-huh.
it
Uh-huh.
was so fun. It was really challenging because I'm like, how does the timeline work or whatever the fuck?
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
Just like, but then like I'll be like, oh, look at all these cool little effects and shit like that, and I felt like it added something to the video. I was like experimenting because they had like a Star Wars, built-in a plugin or whatever.
What?
It's like they'll scroll the text down,
Oh my God, that's
and I
awesome.
was like, I gotta use that. I started scrolling the lyrics down from the ceiling. I'm like, okay, cool. Whereas if it was Premiere, I might have just done my normal tricks.
That's so funny. Yeah, because when you do experiment with new software, it's kind of fun because since you kind of don't know what you're doing, you might discover something different. Like I do that every time I use Ableton, frankly, even though Ableton is my usual software. Occasionally I'll just be like, oh my God, I had no idea this teeny tiny menu was there when you click on this little weird thing on one of the plugins and it's like, surprise.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what? Like you were there this whole
I
time.
know. And then you think about past projects, you're like, what could I have done with that other thing if I saved
Yes.
this?
If I only knew there was this. Yeah, Ableton has lurking menus, I call it, where there's like little buttons on the plugins. You mentioned interviewing people downtown, and I was curious, what are you interviewing them for? And you said they're restaurants that you're interviewing that are Black-owned businesses?
Yeah. So I think the original story was I pitched to LA Taco was that I was going to interview a Black business owner that had been looted and see how they felt about, you know, being looted. Like, do they feel conflicting
Wow.
feelings? Like they
Yeah.
supported George Floyd, but they were hated that their shop got looted.
Yeah.
But um, I don't have a car, so I kept my scope very limited, like downtown, basically next to me.
Mhm.
And I only found one business owner,
Wow.
who was looted, which, that's great
Mm-hmm.
for him. But but then LA Taco wanted it to be about food too. So the story kind of like turned into this situation where I'm like basically interviewing Black business owners, getting their opinions on the protests, seeing if they were worried. And then every business owner I went to was like, we're having like the best sales ever that we've ever and so
That's awesome.
it became this like weird hybrid story where I'm just like reporting on how much strife is still going on in the streets, but how there's this like pocket of greatness going on.
Huh.
Like even the guy whose shop got ruined, he was like, no, man. He was like, Gabrielle Union FaceTimed me yesterday to tell me that she supports me and she bought a bunch of stuff. I was like, damn. I was like, congrats, man.
Like, well done. Yeah, I'm excited about reading that story because I had been reading about multiple shop owners who were like, yeah, on Melrose by where I live, it was like multiple shop owners were like, yeah, that was bad, but we understand why.
Exactly.
And, like, that's cool.
Yeah.
To be the general vibe of what was going on, that they were like, no, we get it. I love like Cantor's where I grew up going was like, here, do you want some water and some snacks? You seem to be tired from protesting.
Yeah.
Can we feed you? And I'm like, oh my God, yes, that is my heritage. I am always forever offering people snacks and water.
Yeah. Yeah, and like it was wild because like in the first couple days, I made the mistake of watching like local news.
Oh my God.
Well, I didn't turn it on. But it was like all the reporting was like, oh, these looters, can you believe that they're ruining our great city and the cops are just trying to do so much to help them? These poor looters are ruining it, like, and then none of it was like about, the police, beating people with sticks or driving cars through crowds. None of that was covered. I was so mad, but then they kept interviewing shop owners, and I know they were hoping the shop owners would say like, you ruined my life. But every interview they aired was like, yeah, I mean, it sucks a lot, but we get it.
That was the vibe in my neighborhood. Like my friends were at the Pan Pacific protest, and one of them is too young to remember the LA riots, which I was a kid for, like the last round, and then the other's from the UK. And so they didn't super know what they were getting into. They're both journalists, but I told them, I'm like, hey, just, I was like, of course, go and cover it. But if you want to protest, get out of the car. If you don't want to protest, stay in the car. And they're both like, why would we stay in the car? And I'm like, because you're going to get shot with stuff. And they were like, we're not going to get shot with stuff. And then they actually got footage of the cops had ambushed people from the CBS lot. That's where they were stationed when they came out and started attacking protesters, was out of the gates that lead at like Beverly and Fairfax.
Okay.
So yeah, my friends got footage of that, and that wasn't aired on the local news, but that was freaky. They were literally hiding behind dumpsters.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I was like, I never thought I'd utter the sentence like, yeah, my friends got footage of the cops coming out from behind dumpsters from the CBS lot to shoot rubber bullets at protesters. Like, what? Like, yeah.
It just gets more despicable every day.
It was crazy. It's wild that like, yeah, I couldn't believe that the news wasn't actually covering what was happening, especially after seeing that footage, because my friends then came to my house because I'm right up the street, and you can actually see from my the roof of my building, we could see like where the helicopters were going, so we could see like where are the fires, where's different things going on, and that wasn't being covered at all. It was just like, it was just like, oh my God, people are taking shoes, and I'm like, that's what you're worried about?
Exactly.
Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, I was just like, you're not worried about like the police ambush of peaceful protesters. You're worried about the shoes.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it's super disheartening. But then it says a lot about the relationship obviously between the media and police and blah blah. I mean, you know about this, but it's just like when I was in journalism school, they were like, the police are the only source you can really use as a journalist for like crime stories or whatever, and not get sued.
Yeah.
And so they are so reliant on police because the police are petty people, and so they will like literally just lock you out.
Yeah.
and you won't have any sources for your stories and whatnot unless you kind of play ball with them. And so watching that, I was like, oh God, because I know why they're reporting this way. I know why they're not showing this stuff.
Exactly. Well, and they were targeting journalists. Like, my friends who went, they didn't have a press pass that day.
Yeah.
But one of my friends is an investigative journalist, and he's still covering the protests. And I mean, they full on, I think it was at the Beverly Hills protest where they shot at him while he was wearing his press badge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, cool. That's,
cool.
Yeah, that's fine. We love that.
Like, I don't know what I was thinking about this country, but I was just like talking to somebody this morning, and I was like, talking about shooting this video, and I was like, well, what if I did this thing where it was something like I'm dressed up because I have like this this sexy cop dress or something like that. So I want to at least do something maybe at the beginning rather, the video where like maybe I'm letting myself into the lot to shoot the video or something, and I'm wearing the sexy cop. But I was like, well, how far can I go without the police getting mad at me? That's like a thought I had. And I was like, could I, in a video beat the shit out of a police officer? Would that be allowed? Like without the police showing up at my door, shit like that. And I just didn't think that like that's where we lived. But that's like, literally, with people getting lynched and shit, I'm like scared to make things that I would just normally make, like.
And that's real. Like the fact that all of a sudden people are like, oh, all these suicides by hanging from trees.
Right.
Like, excuse me?
Like, come on, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think about what you said about, like it's interesting to think about that satire can be dangerous in that way.
Yeah.
Because we can express so much through satire, and you can express your anger through satire, but then justifiably like feel afraid. And I'm like, that's heavy.
Yeah. And that's another thing is like like the function of that kind of stuff, of satire and stuff like that, is so that so people can feel free and whatnot. But in a lot of ways, it allows you to relieve some of the tension that's maybe inside you and whatnot. Like when you keep stuff like that pent up, I feel like that's how you end up with revolutions on your hands and shit like that. When you're trying to constantly stifle people's, expression. Like, we watched people like burning Obama in effigy and shit like that all the time. And you're like, that's horrifying, but you're literally like, that's what we're supposed to be able to do.
Right. No, I think that you're right, that it's like if you stifle any form of expression, even though sometimes that expression can be scary, like that is what leads to then pent up aggression.
Yes, exactly. And then, I don't know. So it's wild watching, and you hope it kind of cools off and whatnot, but it seems like it's only getting hotter and hotter and hotter, like the people's rage and whatnot. And I mean like racists and shit.
Yeah, no, I got that. Yeah, and it's almost like, it's funny because the other field that I work in is therapy. And I remember when I was studying behavioral therapy, especially working with children, there's something called an extinction burst where kids will throw tantrums because they get them what they want. Like if you behave badly, sometimes it gets you what you want. And they'll keep doing this, but if you stop feeding into the tantrum, like if you don't give them attention for it, they'll have what's called an extinction burst. Well, they'll have like the biggest temper tantrum,
right,
until they realize it doesn't work, and then they stop because it doesn't get them what they want.
Right.
So really the only way, it's like you have to like tire them out, where you're like, okay, you're going to keep freaking out and it's still not going to get you what you want.
Yeah.
And then people learn like, oh wait, that's not how I get the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been watching like the extinction burst of like white supremacy, where they're like, maybe if we're extra terrible, and you're like, no, you're still just being terrible. Like that's really all you're doing.
Yeah, I feel like I've been waiting for the extinction burst with these people for so long, and I keep hoping that like now is the time that they're just gonna like peak. But then it's like I feel like they have so much more left in the tank, and that scares me a lot.
Yeah.
and people are like offering to give me rides places because they're worried, because I'm like, I'm always like out and about going
Yeah.
this place and that, and they're like, well, be careful. And I hate that people stop calling me. I hate that people have to worry about me in that way.
Yeah.
And then I have to like walk around. I was in Joshua Tree, like I said, over the weekend, and I've been all over the country. I've been in the South a bunch or whatever, but I've never felt that much like uh, disdain from people. Nobody said anything to me, but like glaring at me and like not breaking eye contact. And I'm wearing like, hot pink shorts and whatnot. Like, whatever. I look good.
I was like, excellent. My face was like hot pink shorts. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah. I was, just trying to have a good time with my life. But it was just like, we walked into this diner.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it was me, another Black person, and two white people.
Mm-hmm.
And we and the first group of us was a white person, Black person. They walked in and walked right the fuck out. They were like, we're not doing this.
Wow.
Like, no. But I walked in, I was like, well, I like this menu, so I'm just gonna.
You're like, I am powering through this.
Yeah, exactly. But I did it, and I regretted it, because I was like, this sucks. Like the whole vibe of this, like the table next to me is just staring at me. And I'm like, the whole vibe of this place is just like, get out.
Oh my God.
But no one's saying anything. But like,
right.
Like, 2 or 3 tables are just, one dude would just like, you make eye contact with somebody when they're like staring at you to like stop them from looking at you.
Yes.
This guy was not breaking. He was just like, he just looked right at me, and we just looked at each other.
Whoa.
For like 4 seconds, and it was just like, damn, Joshua Tree.
Whoa. And I get that. That's also layered with all the pandemic stuff too, that like, I would assume, I don't know if it's a false assumption, that people are also very hostile because like, they're like, oh my gosh, outsiders.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And no one's wearing masks out there. Like, it's not true. I shouldn't say that. There's a very clear vibe of the person who's like not going to wear a mask. It's like,
yes.
It's like,
that's a good way of putting that.
It's like tough people and whatnot, and like Harley people kind of vibe. And in this place, that was clearly the dominant energy.
Gotcha.
I mean, everybody was kind of sitting far apart, but it was like, you still have to pass people to get your order and whatnot.
And
no one's wearing a mask. No one walked in with a mask.
Oh my God.
My mask is pink, so there's, there's like all kinds of stuff.
I was gonna say, so they're probably like, they immediately like clocked you as like, you're not from here.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way I was gonna. I wasn't gonna fit in no matter what.
Well, and you spoke to something that I relate to in a different way, of like, that you don't like that people have to think about protecting you. And it was weird. I was in Reykjavik last fall and the fall before that for a music festival. And it's honestly the only place in the world that I felt comfortable walking alone at night.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it was weird. The first time I felt it, I realized, like, my friends had told me, like, we had all kind of parted ways, and they were like, oh, you can walk back. Cause I said, like, I just presupposed, I was like, who wants to walk me back to my hotel? And they were like, silly little Jewish girl from LA. They were like, you do not need to walk back to your hotel. What's going to happen? It's going to be windy. Like,
maybe.
Yeah. Like, I mean, side note, I did almost get knocked over trying to open a door in the wind. The wind there is very vehement. It makes itself known. Apparently second windiest place in the world, other than, I think, Antarctica.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But so the wind's no joke. But they were reassuring me, like, nothing is going to happen to you. And I was like, what do you mean? And they told me about, like, the one murder that happened on the island. It's like infamous because it's like the one murder.
Yeah.
And like stuff like that, where I'm just like, whoa, because like I realized, like, I could kind of put down that armor, and so when I was walking around, I'd never had that feeling before, that I could just walk around.
Yeah.
And it's weird to have to account for people to protect you, but it's become almost like second nature to me now, and I don't like it. Like I don't enjoy it. So I'm like, that resonated, because I'm like, I hate that when I'm like, oh, who's gonna walk me to my car?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine, like, this country is just so confused. And it's, the police are here to simply monitor and arrest us and whatnot, or crime could be high in a certain area or whatever. We have the obsession with guns and blah, 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 blah. My
Yep.
little thesis about America. But
Yep.
like, you go somewhere and like, you feel that peace for 1 second and you're like, it feels so weird because, at least for me, it feels like I almost don't deserve to feel safe or something like that.
Wow.
Like I go there and I'm like, oh, I feel like fine, and I feel like kind of accepted here, and I feel good. Like when I was in Berlin, for example, I
Uh-huh.
was like, this is pretty tight. I feel like I'm not, like
Yeah.
whatever. And it felt like wrong to me, and it's just like,
Yeah, I cried like full on the first night that I was walking alone. I was just like walking by the harbor of Reykjavik at like 2 a.m. crying like a very sane person. Um, very normal activity to do. But I cried because like I didn't feel like I didn't deserve it, but I cried because I had spent so much time not having that. And I was like, what? Why did I have to spend the rest of my life not feeling this way when you can feel this way?
yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah. I don't even know how to articulate it, but yeah, like you said, like, why did I spend all this time not feeling this? And then first for me at least, there was something about having that felt like that made me feel weird. I don't know, but
yeah.
then it made me feel like I could get used to it. Like,
Yeah, it made me by the second trip that I took there, and I can't wait to go back. They like just reopened their airport, and I'm just like, take me now,
yeah,
please, adopt me.
yeah,
I'm portable.
exactly,
But yeah, it's like I want that experience again, and it makes me sad that I don't have that here, and it also makes me sad that like my first instinct when you said I want to keep it proximal to like where I live in downtown, my first thought was like, yeah, I could give you a ride. And
right, yeah,
like that is my first instinct, is to be like I said, I'm grew up Jewish, so I'm like, would you like some snacks?
yeah,
But, like, it's like that instinct to protect, but also knowing that it's like you don't want to be someone that has to have someone protecting you.
yeah, yeah, totally. It'd be nice to. I don't know. It's just they just seem like, and I sometimes I feel like I'm like losing it. Like, am I paranoid or something like that? But I think it's just from like reading the news sometimes, maybe too much. Like sometimes I just need to take a break. Um,
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think that especially in the last few weeks, everyone's kind of getting a bit of like media fatigue. I don't know what to
yeah,
call it.
yeah. I mean, very that. Like, when I was in Joshua Tree, because that's when the lynchings were being reported on. At least like when I first was seeing them, and it was like
Yeah.
I was like, I almost wish I just hadn't read it. And it's so
Yeah.
insidious too, because it feels like it doesn't. I read it and then I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'm hungry. What's for lunch? But then you
Right.
realize later on or whatever, you're like, oh, this is really affecting me negatively, and it's making me paranoid. And
Yes.
like, you know,
Yes.
so I don't know.
Yes. No, I definitely get that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even right now, just talking about it, I was, I was just doing my stuff today. And now, right now, and like since we talked about it, I'm like, right, the world is on fire. Like,
Yeah. And it's hard to hold in your mind because you have to keep like being a person. You can't just
yes,
like be immobilized by it, but you're also like, shit, the world's on fire.
yeah, oof,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's, it's weird cognitive dissonance. As I know one of my colleagues who she's like my good friend from grad school, and she and I were talking about how weird this whole situation is, where we're like, we're therapists. Also, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I know. We're all going to need so much help. I mean, right now we already need help, but like, if the smoke clears, like say in
Right?
2021, everything goes back to normal or something,
Oh
we're all
my
going to need
god.
so much help. Just
Seriously? Like, I'm just like, this is all, there was no workshop on this in grad school.
exactly.
Um, you had mentioned, I picked up, you had said that you studied journalism, which I did not know.
Yeah, I moved here just to be a singer, but I mean, or to try to get to a certain level as a singer. But my like excuse was that I came here to go to grad school and study journalism.
Wow.
And freaking USC had just truncated their program from 2 years to 1 year, went from a MA to an MS. And I was like, yeah, I can do a year. Like, because I swore I wasn't going to go back to school.
Yeah.
But I was like, but I always wanted to go to journalism school for whatever reason. And it was tight. USC was, people sometimes are like, you know, are they people shitty? I was like, no, everybody was fine though. The only vibe I got a little bit was like, you know, the people were pretty rich.
Yep. The fact that it's like it's walled off from the community, and I feel like it's only become more so recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even when I was there, it was like a couple of students have been killed, and it just created this like environment that was just very negative, you know, like.
Yeah.
Like, don't interact with the community around you, basically.
Yeah. That's the vibe that I got. I gave a talk there last year, and I definitely got that feeling where it's like it was very cloistered. Like there's everything that you would need in the immediate school environment, which was in some ways good. Like it's like, okay, you have amenities for your students there, but it also separated them from the community in a way that I would only imagine would foment conflict.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And, you know, because they want the students to, they want students to keep going there, but they want to, you know, convince parents, I guess, or, you know, the students that like, hey, don't worry, like, we're going to keep these, you know,
keep
people away.
Who live in this neighborhood away from you.
We're going to keep them away from you. And so it's cool. You'll be safe. There's a Trader Joe's here. You're good. But there wasn't when I was there. I would have loved to have a Trader Joe's there. Anyway.
That's so funny. But you did study there, and it sounds like at the very least you enjoyed it and got stuff out of it.
I did. I was very jaded about journalism. My job. I was very jaded about journalism when I first got out of school because it's like, you know, it's really hard to get a journalism job, and it's, if you're freelancing, you know, everybody knows this story. It's just really tough.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the, what do you call that? The strength, I guess, to go that road. And even now, like most of the journalism I do is just like interviewing musicians or like a profile on someone, like really easy stuff that doesn't involve reporting and stuff like that. And I just got back into reporting, and I'm like, oh God, this is such a hustle. It's just like,
people don't realize how time intensive it is, especially if you're doing investigative reporting. In some ways, like, it speaks to kind of having the privilege to have the time and space to be able to do that and then hit the stories. Like, it's time intensive and it's resource intensive. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, the toughest part in my mind is that you're never off. It's like you're always just kind of like, oh wait, but this element, this, and I wonder if this person's going to get back to me, and like the constant background running when you're trying to do other things too is like, it's a little too much.
Yeah, like trying to balance that. I guess like I ended up in a quarantine pod with 2 journalists, so definitely got to see that, where it was 2 journalists, me, who's a musician therapist, and then another musician. And it was fascinating seeing like kind of the ways in which we all run, but it gave me a lot of respect for the hustle of journalism, that it's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna interview one person and then we're done.
I know. I mean, that's what I like doing now. I'm like, listen, just make it simple for me. It's just like I go here, I do the journalism, and then the journalism is done until I write the story, which is just, you know, transcribing the interview. And
we have done the journalism.
The journalism is done.
That's so funny. Wait, so how did you get into editing with video?
So that's because I was like writing for Reuters and shit like that, and then I was tired. My friend was like, and I wasn't making any money. My friend was like, hey, I edit for MormonBoys.com. Like, do you want to, you know, just do this for now, and it'll be a nice supplementary income. And I did it, and it's like, you know, porn is a very stable industry. Like, they're always making money. Yeah. And making new stuff. And so I did it thinking I would just do it for a second, and then it was just like kept rolling. And it's a flexible job. Right. In a sense. So like you heard me at the beginning, like I'm working right now, but I'm going to do 8 other things. Yeah. You know, like while I'm working, I'm going to go, you know, take care of other business. Right. Right. And so it's really good for that. It is, I'm like tired of it. I am so tired of doing this. But it does serve my life like pretty well. It barely pays anything, but it's like a baseline pay. And then I go out and I'll sing for a TV show. I'll do whatever. I'll make money in other ways.
I noticed that you said that you do a lot of stuff for sync.
Yeah, I work with this company. I'm signed to this company called Sweet on Top. And the owner, Christina Benson, will hook me up with different people. And it sucks because I was kind of like on a nice little run. I think I got 2 of them, like 2 syncs, which is like nice.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. But then like, COVID happened and it was like everything dried up. It was just like,
yeah.
And we're trying to, I'll do a session. And it's like, cool. It's fine. We'll do it over Zoom. And after a while you realize like, I don't think any of these are going to get,
you're like, what are these going to get up for? Because like production is at a standstill.
Exactly. And then you start to get kind of a negative feeling about them because you're like, I got another session. Like, oh, okay, sure. And all the sessions are like, we want you to sing about togetherness and inspiration and
right.
And like, so it's all the same kind of like ballady, whatever.
Yes. Yes.
So that gets tiring too, singing about, it's basically like gospel songs, but you don't say God.
That is an excellent way to describe sync music, because I think that non-musicians don't quite get like, I mean, obviously lots of different kinds of music are synced, but there's like a specific kind of sync music that you can make that's like, there's like top 20 words are like, together, united, and you can talk about love, but not in a sexy way.
In a sexy way. Only unsexy love.
Only unsexy love. Very platonic love that you might have for, your partner of 40 years or a detergent.
Yes. Very close bonds.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's funny. A friend was mixing a song of mine and he did an audio share. That was cool. Like he did an audio share from his computer to mine so I could listen live on my monitors to what he was doing.
Nice.
Yeah, which like,
never done that.
Yeah, I'd be down for more of that. I'd imagine it would be hard to write a song over Zoom also because things are like that slight bit asynchronous.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that would be frustrating.
Yeah. That part is frustrating, but I didn't think of it like we'll do like a shared Google Doc or whatever. We're writing lyrics together and, you're sending little demos even. They're like, hey, do you want to go on mute real quick? And we'll just go on mute and then I'll demo my ideas and send them over.
Yeah.
You kind of make it work. It was like not as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Because that's fun. I have a friend on the East Coast where I'll just like send him stuff where I'm just like, here's this voice note I made. And he'll just sometimes like be like, oh, I thought of this elaboration on it. Like send me a voice note back. And like that I really like. I guess that's less formal in a way. And I like that where you can just kind of bandy ideas back and forth.
Yeah. Love the word bandy too. That's a great word.
Yeah, I said it and was just like, have I ever said that word aloud? I don't know. I'm fun with it.
So good. Bandy's so good.
Do you ever have that you have words that are just lurking that you've read but never said aloud and you're like, I'm going to give it a go. Now's the time.
Yeah, usually it's like if I don't know, like it's a lot of times like if I'm talking to somebody for an interview or something, like a restaurant owner or something, and I'll just like some word will just come out. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's my brain being like, I don't know. It's like talking like I wouldn't talk, like.
Yes.
But it's fun. I don't know. It's kind of nice too. Bandy's such a good word.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun to say. I think I might have to like say it more.
Perfect.
It went good places.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you said that your song is coming out next Friday, that you're shooting a video for like tomorrow.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Like Fashion District, save us.
I know. But it'll get done. It's like I keep this whole call. I've been trying to start a Google Doc for me and the director, and I just haven't done it. It's just like.
I mean, I I think that when you said this is so very LA, I forget that other people don't do that. And that's actually kind of, like I said, part of the conceit of the podcast is it's like, why not both? And some of it is like, you can't do everything at the same time because there's only one you.
Yeah.
But also, you know, that drive to do multiple things because you're excited by them.
Yeah. And then I worry because whenever I stop moving, now I'm like addicted to moving fast. So like
Yeah.
when I stop, suddenly I feel useless in some sort of way, or like I'll feel every emotion that I've kind of like not dealt with, or every problem I haven't dealt with is suddenly like screaming, as opposed to just like like a normal level of whatever. It's like, oh my god, you know, like,
Instead of like a murmur of like, oh no.
yeah, exactly.
That's, you know, it's interesting you said that because I was learning about trauma responses, and one of them is like when we think of flight, we often think of like running away from something, but it can often manifest, particularly in Western cultures, as overwork, because it's like
Right.
you launch yourself into something else so that you don't have to think about whatever the thing is that's stressing you out. You're like, cool, I'll run away into another project
Yeah.
or another thing. And so then when there's that absence, that's when it comes back and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, my therapist has been trying for about a year now to get me to just like deal with stuff. You know,
It's hard.
yeah, and I'll start the process, and then it'll feel too scary, and I'll be like, "Hey, no," you know, like I'm just gonna do stuff. And he's like, "That's
Like,
cool."
JK.
Yeah, he's like, "That's cool," but eventually you have to. I'm like, "Yeah, maybe."
You're like, no. I always tell my clients that I'm like, therapy is like, people think it's going to be someone that's being there just being like, oh yeah, I hear your problems. But I'm like, no, it's sort of more of like a low-key accidental, like brutal workout where like while you're doing it, you're like, I think I can move this way. And afterwards you're like, oh my God.
Listen, he was like, I want you to write a letter to your childhood self.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, sick. But I did the letter and it like broke me. It was like, I was like, the letter was like so mean to my younger self.
Oh.
And he was like, that was like not what you were supposed to do. He was like, there's no wrong answer, but I
Yeah.
didn't mean
Like,
for you
why
to
are you
like,
so mean to yourself?
yeah. He was like, I didn't mean for you to come for yourself like that.
It's like, now we have even more to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
It's wild.
I've done that where I've assigned homework for clients, and not like it's backfired, but I almost feel like have you played D&D?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm an inexperienced and impatient D&D player, frankly. But the first campaign I ever played in, the DM had thought of this whole giant plot line, and I quite accidentally undid it in a single move in my first game. And like just totally ruined his plot line, and we accidentally became like pirates, and that was great. But like I basically like blew up the bad guy in one move and then stole his ship.
Yeah.
Not what the plot was supposed to be. And I feel that way sometimes in therapy when I'm working with clients where I'm like, yes, I have this whole like plan for you and this whole storyline. And then they do something and I'm like, you're a pirate now.
We're all pirates now.
Yeah.
It's just like this is the plot.
Exactly. So it's like sometimes the things that you have one intention for, you're like, cool, piracy. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
We're going to go
exactly.
that road now.
Yeah, let's just go with it. That's how I try to live my life. It's just like, all right, let's just go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, all right, we're going to do it. And, you know, I'm glad that you are talking openly about therapy. I was talking with another therapist about this, about particularly Black men and therapy do not often collide because the people who are therapists do not often present themselves as helpful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's like all kinds of, I'm sure there's so many reasons, but I just know growing up, it was always like therapy was for people who were crazy,
Right.
who lost their minds or some shit like that. And I remember telling somebody that I was in there, like, it was like, I think it was somebody I was gonna hook up with.
Awesome.
Off of like Scruff or something. And I was like, oh, sorry, I was late. I was in therapy. And he was like, what? He was like so terrified to meet up with me then.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was just like, are people okay? I'm like, I get really stoked when someone tells me that they're in therapy because it means that I have to do less emotional labor.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, oh, how exciting. You have a place for this.
Yeah. And it's great because it's hard for me to notice when I'm like getting better or something like that, or like when I'm improving or whatever the metric is.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, I've been working with you for a year. He's like, it's night and day, man. He's like, when you came in, this was XYZ, and now you're able to do this and that. And it's really nice to hear that, especially when he points it out. You're like, you're right. I don't feel that way about this thing anymore, or whatever it is.
That's so cool. Yeah, like yeah. I write notes for my clients during session, and then I photograph the notes and send them to them because I'm like, they're not like secret notes. It's like, here's what we talked about. Because I tend to retain information best by the act of writing it.
Right, yeah.
So it's cool though, because then I have in my client files, it's almost like I have the story of like our treatment together and how they are and how they see themselves, how I see them, like, it's all there. And so it's really interesting to sometimes pull a file and be like, where was this client when we started? Where are they now? And like you said, it can sometimes be like totally night and day where like, and I'll bring that up with clients sometimes where I'm like, hey, remember when you did blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my God, I would, wow.
Yeah. I know. I mean, for real, like it's very much that. It's like when I first started seeing him, I was like, my main way of dealing with anything was like going to the bar or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like my therapy. I see all my friends. And it's like, I still like bars or whatever, but just from then to now, my relationship with just like having to numb stuff like that is like totally different. I mean, I still have the energy to do that or something, but I have like so many other tools for doing it that is like, I was like, oh, right. I took dance class or something like that will replace that for me. Or like making memes sometimes is like the same. I get the same kind of like high or whatever of like, oh yeah, there it is.
Bless you. I literally just like touched my heart. I was just like, you're speaking directly to my love of memes.
I mean, yeah. I think we all thought they were going to be inconsequential when memes first started, and now they're so real.
They're literally, I joke that like they're actually a love language now. I'm like, they're very much, it's like our own hieroglyphics where we're like, no, this contains a different meaning than just the image or just the words.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know. It's like I feel like some memes really hit me on like a deep level. Like when you see them, when we saw memes, I think early on in memes, I wouldn't have imagined that I'd be thinking about that meme 10 years later. But like, I absolutely am. You're like, it can be really instructive. It's good.
They can be. I've brought memes into therapy. Like clients have brought memes to me where some of my clients will text me just being like, oh, this hit me. And like, like things like that. And I like that. I like that my clients can like send me memes and I'm like, I can see exactly where you're at right now. Thank you. That is that is illustrative. I appreciate it.
Yes. Love illustrative.
Well, I'm excited to read. When is the article coming out that you're doing the interviews for?
It's supposed to come out tomorrow.
Cool. So you've got a busy day. I'm just like, I'm enjoying talking to you. And I'm also like, I feel bad that I should like let you go so you can do all the things you were saying.
Well, this was good because I did all my day jobs, or I'm like working on it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's super easy stuff. Like it's a mindless edit. So I've just been talking and like doing you can probably hear the keyboard like.
Oh yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
Totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
Totally fine.
Speaking of memes, I'm like, I feel like that meme is like the emblem of our times of like the dog in the room on fire. Like
yes. Exactly. We've seen that one in particular so many times this year.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I feel like it was actually the year that Trump got elected that I drove out of my parking garage. I'd been at a friend's that night, and then like I came home and I drove out, and somehow, like, I don't even know what happened, but there was literally a dumpster with a smoldering fire outside my garage, which I've got to say, like, WeHo is not usually known for its dumpster fires, but it felt like...
I beg to differ.
Oh, I'm very here for that. That was great. But it seemed very emblematic. I was just like, wow, there's a literal dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, I don't know how that happened, but like heavy with the symbolism.
Yeah, exactly. And that fire still rages to this day.
Exactly. That dumpster, it is still smoldering.
Sheesh.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for your time today. I'm excited to share your songs and your articles and to spread the word of the rad things that you are doing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep doing it,
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Why Not Both? If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like us and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also come hang out with us on social media. We are at WNB the podcast, both on Instagram and Twitter. This season, we are brought to you by Under the Radar. Under the Radar is a nationally distributed print, music, and entertainment magazine and website. You can find them at www.undertheradarmag.com and feel free to support them on Patreon. Extra special thanks to our producer, Laura Studeris, who has been absolutely amazing. Thank you again, and I look forward to next week's episode.